Welcome to episode 16 of Squats and Seances. This is the season 1 finale. Today's guest is the Priestess of Mystic Gnosis, Yeshe Meryemana Matthews Robles, is Mandala Priestess and Sybil of the Mount Shasta Goddess Temple. She is avowed and ordained in several different mystery traditions, including Tibetan Buddhism, plant and spirit shamanism, Ifa, Mayan cosmology, and goddess spirituality. With a master's degree in women's history from Sarah Lawrence College, she has studied women's mysticism and matriarchal communities for over 20 years. And she teaches in the temple's Priestess and Sybil training programs. She co-owns the Sacred Well Metaphysical Shop, where she offers readings, ancestor guidance sessions, Sybil sessions, and more. Welcome, Yeshe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, Vanessa, and it's so great to see the actualization of your vision.
I'm so excited to chat today. This meeting has been long awaited on the podcast. Just to give listeners a little background here, I discovered the Mount Shasta Goddess Temple during one of my own searches for spiritual community and growth opportunities. I originally joined their monthly newsletter, which I found out later was written by Yes. That newsletter provided insights into areas of spirituality that were completely foreign to me. I guess they would be considered pagan histories and traditions, rituals, connections, concepts that I honestly probably just wouldn't have even known where to look in the past. I was intrigued and I wanted to understand more about these things and find out how they might be relevant in my own very physically grounded, science focused lifestyle. So I actually booked a session with Yeshi. That would have been many months ago now.
Yeah, I think it was like early 2025, like
Yeah,
early in the year.
spring. That session changed my life. I was unaware at the time that by the end of that meeting, I would be instructed to start a podcast. And that would create the very community that I was looking to find, that the podcast would be wildly successful and welcomed by a population of like-minded, spiritually gritty, physically resilient people. Essentially, my tribe was waiting. And that all happened because of my meeting with you. And looking back on that initial session that we had, in your memory, what stands out?
Well, what stands out to me from our session was that when we sat down and I started to look at the kind of energetic picture of you, one of your superpowers is your voice,
Hmm.
your ability to take abstract thoughts, concepts, belief systems, ideas, nuanced discussion, and give it voice in a direct, clear way. And one of the things that came forward in that reading was that if you made your voice available in the world, it would call to you the people who were meant to be your community. And that if you allowed yourself to be heard, you would find like-minded people. And I think that, one of the things that we talked about a little bit in that first session and we've talked about subsequently is that people kind of think there's like a divide between science and spirit, between body and mind. And actually, we are our bodies, and spirit and science have more in common than they have different, in that each seeks to establish itself as a basis of understanding of information that otherwise we would have a hard time grasping. And so I've been just really excited to watch you blossom through this podcast, to watch you gathering community to you, to watch your voice getting more confident and brave and bold and direct and opinionated, and to watch you really come into the superpower that your reading said that you had. And it was really fun to be on that path of discovery with you. And then, I feel very honored to be invited to be here now on the show with you.
It was my dream from the beginning. In my opening episode, where I talked about my meeting with you and about this, I'm going to call it a divine calling to talk, to share the experiences, to gather people that I've crossed paths with, to share their stories, and to use this platform for a bigger reach. And listeners, I got to say, we had a second meeting. We talked a lot about the second season of the podcast. I'm so excited. I mean, this first season has been amazing, and I think that the best is probably yet to come. So stay tuned, guys. It's going to be really good.
You get amazing people, and it just feels like it's getting better and better. Like you have a wonderful guests, and you have such a natural way about you that is like, just it's blooming. So I'm very excited for you.
Thank you so much. I wanted to give everyone a little bit of context there. And then I want to jump into asking you questions. I have so many questions for you about you and where you're at and what you're doing. The first question that I always ask a guest that comes on the podcast for the first time is, what does gritty mean to you?
I was raised working class. My father's greatest aspiration when he was growing up was to work at his cousin's gas station. And in the end, he ended up studying ancient languages and becoming a teacher and then a guidance counselor and then a statewide public school advocate for children with special needs. And he became a deacon in his church. And my mom was a professor of human services. But both of them came from families where nobody had more than an eighth grade education
Wow.
and where they were very much raised working class, working in fact with factory worker families, with domestic work family members. And so even though by the time they had me, my parents both had more education and better jobs than anyone in their families had ever had. At the same time, the year that my parents had me, their combined salary was $4,000 a year. And so we were not rich. We lived very much hand to mouth. Um, so gritty for me implies the sense of survival that comes from no other option.
Mm.
And when I think about what grit has meant in my life, it means the sandpaper-like conditions of reality that force us to become innovative, survival-oriented, able to live richly amidst humble means,
Oh, that's beautiful.
and more patient and compassionate
Mm.
with the rest of the world because everyone really is fighting whatever their own inner battle is. And since then, and since my upbringing, I have also attained higher education. I have also gone on to start my own business, to be able to travel extensively, to be able to do things that my parents weren't able to do,
Mhm.
as they did things their parents weren't able to do. And I think that's a common story for many of us who are the children of immigrants or the grandchildren of immigrants or whose families were impacted by social iniquities. And so for me, it's that the grit that I come from is the like sandpaper that has helped me shape a life that is what my ancestors always dreamed of.
That's amazing. I just have to sit with it for a minute. Thank you. I will be putting together all of the answers from my guests over the seasons, and I am so happy that I'm going to be able to add yours to
Oh, thank you. It's a great question. And I love
it.
what different answers surface from different people and all the different ways we think about that.
It can be such a universal word that I wouldn't have thought. And I want to give credit that term, that word, that phrase you first mentioned in the first meeting that you and I had. And that was one of the takeaways that just stuck with me. I thought that is going to be one of the through points that's going to keep coming up because it's so applicable to everybody. So thank you for answering. It feels full circle.
Yeah, it does. It's crazy.
So talk to us now. Where are you? Because you are somewhere special. And what are you doing?
Mm. I am in Delphi in Greece right now. I've just completed a pilgrimage with a group of 10 women plus myself, 9 women and 1 man. But he's a sister, if you understand my meaning.
Yes.
Like he knows how to be a sister. So 10 sisters plus myself. And we were touring the ancient oracular sites of Greece. We went to Eleusis, where the Eleusinian mysteries were performed. These were a series of mystery rites that were so secret that we still to this day don't know all what happened there. But what we do know is that by the end of the ceremony, the people who went to that ceremony felt that their lives had been transformed and felt that they were no longer afraid of death. We visited Athens and
Mm.
we climbed the Acropolis and saw the Parthenon and the different shrines of the Greek gods up there, as well as visiting the Acropolis Museum and some of the finds that have come, the statues and beautiful objects that came from that ancient site. We came here to Delphi and visited the ancient oracle site. We hiked up to the primordial cave that was the previous site before the temple was built.
Wow.
Um, and we then also a smaller group of us went to Dodoni, where the more ancient oracle temple of Greece was. And so this has been a journey for the last couple of weeks for me of touching down into the ancient oracular mystery traditions, ones that I've studied for most of my life as a way of connecting with those ancestral energies and with the capacity to deliver oracular and prophetic information in a way that's healing, in a way that's helpful, um, to kind of trace that lineage. So it's been really
Wow.
exciting. I love being here. This is my fourth time or fifth time. I've been coming, it's my fourth time in Delphi, and I usually take groups here once a year to do what we call Pythia pilgrimage, which is where we teach about different oracular methods. We visit the sites by day, and by night, we're like rolling bones and pulling from letter oracles and pulling cards and
Wow.
going into meditation. And so that's what I've been up to. And right now, it's actually like the most magical, mystical time of year because it's cool and there's like mist and the weather is gorgeous and everything just feels like foggy
Mm.
and misty and cozy and magical. And I've got my
Yeah.
tea, and
Yep.
so it's a great time of year to be here.
Wow. So how long have you been there so far, duration wise, for this trip?
I got here September 28th.
Mhm.
Today is October 17th.
17th.
And so I've been here since then. I will leave here on the 20th, and then one of my friends and I will be going to 2 more sites. We'll be going to the island of Aegina to visit the ancient temples of Zeus and Aphaia, and then we'll be going to Crete to visit the matriarchal temples of Knossos and Festos and some of the ancient sites there.
That's amazing. And you do this at least once a year.
I typically go each fall.
Mhm.
Typically, it's in October because
Mhm.
it's witchy season.
I
And,
love, it's my favorite month.
it's like my favorite time of year.
Yeah.
The weather's beautiful. It's a nice time of year to be here because it's not as hot
Mm.
as in the summer. And because I have kind of a regular route, I take groups on pilgrimage to different sites each year, and I like to be in Greece in October. I like to be in Turkey in the spring. I
Hmm.
like to be in Egypt in the winter. I like to go to Day of the Dead in Mexico, obviously right over Halloween usually. And then I also take groups to France to a Mary Magdalene pilgrimage in the south of
Wow.
France in May around a particular festival time. So some of it is some of what I do with groups where I'm taking people to a sacred site has to do with like we're there for a specific festival. Like
Okay.
when we come in late September or early October, mid-October to Greece, we're looking at the Eleusinian Mysteries and the Thesmophoria, which was a women's festival where women would get together and celebrate and ask for like benevolent health, fertility, and well-being, and joyful marriages, and so some of what I in like the when I go in May to south of France, we go to the Romani festival of Sarakali in the Camargue, where they process their saint into the sea, and everyone receives the blessing of that. And then we also do the tour of the Magdalene sites. Some of the things that I do are like around, and obviously Dia de los Muertos in Mexico is a time-bound
Yeah.
holiday. So some of the things I do are time-bound, and then other things I do are just more, it just feels like it's the vibe and the time,
Yeah.
and we go.
Yeah. So a little bit of intuitive guidance there. And are you the one, based on your educational history, the background, you've studied all of these different, should I call them religions, I guess, right? Like
Yeah, we could
beliefs?
say traditions, mystery
Yeah.
traditions,
Yeah.
really.
And so you can curate these experiences for the group that's traveling with you.
Yes,
Wow.
it's absolutely my goal to give people the marriage of the history and then the experience of what would it have been like in ancient times. Like we live in a modern era where, we have the internet and we have, our phones and we have cars and all that. But to put your 2 feet on a sacred road, to hike up
Yeah.
to an ancient cave where there's an altar that's been used since Neolithic times again and again by thousands of people, or to walk the Pilgrim's Way in the south of France and attune to the footsteps of the Magdalene. Where did she go? What
Yeah.
was she doing? There's an embodiment, which I
Mhm.
think you really
Yeah.
uniquely understand, the importance of getting the energy in our body. And actually, this is one of the reasons I wanted to come on this podcast with you, because at first, I thought, well, I don't really, I'm not really a gym person. I don't know, like, what would I have to talk about? But
Right.
then as we deepened in our
Yeah.
relationship, I thought, gosh, I have a lot to say
A
here about
lot. There's so much I want to hear you talk
embodiment,
about. Yes.
and about how we get an energy into our body. And
Yeah.
like one of my goals, I'm 51,
Mhm.
one of my goals for my fitness and my health at all sizes and ages
Yeah.
in my life is, can I still climb a mountain at
Yeah.
dawn to worship the ancient gods at sunrise? Because I want to be able to do that. Can I walk 3, 4, 5 miles in a day and be totally okay with it? And
Mhm.
I keep my balance on unsteady terrain. And so it's interesting because my approach to fitness is very much about keeping my feet on the sacred road in front of me and being able to continue at all ages, at weight, at size,
Yeah.
at all different levels of ability for myself and my guests to be able to go have these embodied experiences of the
Yeah.
goddess. And I have a circle of women around me who are of all different varying, levels of ability and age and size and capacity. And so figuring out like what is that magic formula that allows each of us to be fully embodied
Yeah.
in the goddess, in the landscape, is like one of the great things that I like to do. So it is bringing together the history and what did they do in ancient times, and then bringing together, this is what we're working with now, and how can I make that work for everyone? It's like putting together a
Oh my
puzzle.
gosh. This is the perfect example of those three pillars. You've got the spirituality component, you have the physical body, the physiology, and you have the psychology fitting everything together. meeting people
Yes.
where they're at so that they can have this real time experience. How
Yeah.
powerful that must be.
It's really important. It's really important. Earlier this year, I had a guest on one of my tours. I have most of my tours are for women only.
Mhm.
Occasionally, I have tours where it's couples or, women and men. And earlier this year, I had a fellow on one of my tours who had advanced Parkinson's
Mhm.
and helping to figure out how to provide him with an amazing embodied experience that didn't leave him feeling less than,
Yeah.
left out, wistful. And so there was one place where it was going to be, he needed poles,
Yeah.
for balance. And there was an area where it just wasn't going to be possible for him to do this one hike. And instead, I found these guys with horse and carriages who would take him around the backside of the site. And so I sent the walking group with one of the other guides. I got with him and one other woman who had had a knee replacement into the carriage.
Yes.
We took the horse carriage. And then we all met up for coffee at the end, and it
It's
was great.
perfect.
And I have guests who come who are like gluten free or have severe allergies, and we have to figure out, and I have all kinds of resources for how we can make sure that, that they stay safe. So it's about meeting people's bodies where they are and saying everybody deserves to have brilliant adventures
Yeah.
and how that can happen for everybody, or dealing with clients who are clean and sober
Mhm.
and, you know, um, figuring out how to ensure that their experience is honored and that they don't feel left out. There's
Yeah.
100 different ways it arises. And I'm
Right.
sure you, as a fitness,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
as, practitioner, you also have to think about those things
I was going
about
to
like,
say it's parallel to teaching a class. You have the athletes that come in, and everyone is an athlete. I don't use that term as an elitist term. Everyone is an
right,
athlete, from my 80
right.
something year old athletes to my 20 something year old athletes. Everybody is an athlete. And they walk in, and I have to be ready to modify whatever I'm presenting, but maintain the stimulus. And that's
Yeah,
exactly what I hear you describing. And it's so beautiful to me. These things are
yeah.
so parallel. I have a hard time traveling as much as I love traveling, but the stress on my body, the physical exertion, jet lag, time differences,
Oh, yeah.
cultural shifts and expectations. How do you prepare yourself, mind, body, and spirit for one of these pilgrimages before you go?
Well, I'll tell you, over the years, I've experienced a little bit of everything from having half a group come down with COVID
Oh, yeah.
to having myself get RSV on a plane and not be able to get rid of a cough for 2 months,
Mhm.
to having like people who actively injured themselves while, taking a step down off something. I have really seen it all. And so typically for myself, my protocol is twice a week. I take a tablet of airborne in water while I'm traveling just to keep my everything dialed in. I tend to do a tincture of horse chestnut and vitamin D, and D vitamins for about a month before I fly to protect my venous structures on the
Mhm.
plane from the pressure,
Yeah.
especially for long flights. Um, vitamin K cream for the legs.
Mhm.
I recommend compression socks for folks. I also recommend when you get to a new time zone, immediately take off your old socks and put on new ones. I don't know why,
I
but this
love
so much.
that.
I like to encourage my guests to try to arrive in the second half of the day whenever possible and to push themselves to stay awake until night in our new location. I do like the homeopathic jet lag tablets. They help a lot. I think it's called Jet Zone or something like
Okay.
that. I take homeopathic arnica on the plane to help with, and also those little rollers that you can buy online that are for leg cramps.
Mhm.
I recommend getting up out of your seat on the airplane at least once an hour. Like for me, the protocol is one cup of water per hour and 1 walk around the plane per hour.
Mm.
And it's especially for some of these flights that are like 10, 12,
That's
13,
a long
14
time.
hours.
Yeah.
Because I myself can't always afford to fly like business class or anything.
Yeah.
I'm back economy, and so I'm not like able to lay flat or do things. So I have to kind of work that out. I know that for me, stretching is really important when I get to a new place, doing some deep back stretches and, knee stretches, as well as I will tell you, I carry like a stash of 100 of these patches you can find online. I get them on Amazon. It's Wu Yang brand Chinese medicinal plasters.
Oh,
And for athletes,
yeah.
anyone who's worked out, if you've pulled something, if you have muscular pain, if you have even pain like in a joint, man, you slap one of those babies on before you go to bed and in the
Hmm.
morning, you feel like a new person.
I need to
So
try this.
I'm obsessed with them. And
Okay.
actually, there's every one of my guests ends up being like, what are those things called? Where did you get those?
Yeah.
Hmm,
Okay. That's a
to
great
have,
recommendation, even if you're not
so
traveling,
that's like
guys.
all of your, that's like all of the like health related,
Yeah.
like keep myself strong. Obviously, when I travel, what I'll tend to do is do like a mostly vegetarian diet, low carb, but like, like not many processed carbs, although
Mhm.
it's so hard. In a lot of countries, bread is the
Oh
big thing,
gosh. Yeah. And when you're there,
um,
you'd want to eat what's
when
there because you can't get it at home, right? So,
right, because it's really good.
yeah.
So I noticed that like if I'm in Greece or Turkey or Egypt and I eat bread, or in France, I eat bread, it's so much better than what I get in the
Oh
US, to
yeah.
be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Um, so but I do like low grain, lots of veggies, and then I do like high protein like every 2 to 3 days just to like really dial it in with
Mhm.
like fish or chicken or beef. Like I kind of alternate my types of protein and I do novel proteins like
Yeah.
wherever I can because I don't want it to just all be the same.
Yeah.
So that's kind of some of the more dietary. I notice that when I'm back at home, I'll drink a cup of coffee in the morning and that's it. That's my caffeine for the day. But when I travel, I'm able to I drink coffee all day long. Like when I'm abroad, I don't know. Maybe it's like something about the vibe, or maybe
Yeah.
it's a little less processed. I'm not sure. But like, I really like my coffee. I love my midday coffee in the
Mm.
and but then in terms of like groundedness, I do recommend bringing a piece of black tourmaline
Mm.
for smoky quartz for grounding. And I do recommend bringing like a small like handkerchief, a little tea light holder, and maybe like a little special crystal like an amethyst or a clear quartz, and building a little altar for yourself every room you stay in. And it should be something that you can basically pop up and put down in minutes. It doesn't need to be a big or elaborate. In fact, there's something really precious and sweet about your little altar with
Yeah.
your little candle, your one crystal, maybe a little pewter statue of a goddess or a little, something that's special that you
Mhm.
get at the place. I usually have a couple of pieces of jewelry that I have specifically charged before I leave with safety and protection. I carry aquamarine in my suitcase so that my suitcase will get where it needs to go.
Oh,
I
interesting.
have evil eye pins, a like pin with an evil eye on it, and I put those in all my bags so that I'll stay safe and I won't get robbed.
Yeah.
Um, I watch out for, in terms of safety, I tend to be a bit more conservative in my dress. I've noticed that if I go in somewhere in a tank top versus if I go in somewhere and my shoulders are covered, I get treated better if my shoulders are covered, especially in countries that are more
Interesting.
conservative.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, um, not sure, potentially controversial thing, but for me, it's not about bringing white feminism to another country and expecting them to change.
Yeah.
It's actually for me about going there and understanding the women there and where they're at and what they hold sacred, and then trying to attune to that
Yeah.
and be as one with them or fit in and follow their lead. I feel like that engenders more goodwill.
That's a really interesting point that you made. Do you find that in addition to the types of garments you bring, the color palette as well?
That's a great question. I myself, I have a spiritual prohibition since 2015 when I was initiated into Ifa against wearing black, which is really funny because before that I was a little goth girl. And so for my whole life, I was like the
Yeah.
gothiest of I have hundreds of pictures of me with black,
Yes, everything.
everything. And now I never wear black
Mm.
anymore since the last 10 years. I only wear bright colors, vivid colors, like, leopard print. And, I
I
do,
love it.
like I do tend to have a look. I
Mhm.
stand out. I don't feel like I need to like blend in to like a color palette per se, but I do blend in around issues related to modesty. And because of my initiations and because of things that have come up in my spiritual path, I do myself cover my head every day. I don't think that's expected of everyone. Most places I go, it's not expected. The only places that you really have to cover your head as a woman is if you are in like going into a mosque or into a serious Muslim space.
Yeah.
Um, then they do expect that.
Mhm.
Most places don't. I do cover everywhere simply because that's part of my spiritual health.
Right.
I need to not let everybody else's thoughts into my head. And
Oh.
part of my protocol for that is covering my head. And it's not because I think a piece of fabric is going to keep out everybody's everything. It's more that it's a practice.
Yeah.
And in that practice, I'm remembering to say, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. I don't give unasked for readings. I'm not here to like be roaming
Yeah.
or scanning the crowd.
Yeah.
I'm here to be in my experience. And so, those are some things that are kind of more particular to me, but they're important for me. And I do recommend for anyone who is really psychically sensitive
Mhm.
that if you travel, pop a little beanie on or wear a hoodie or
Wow.
something like that, just to see. It doesn't have to be like a drapey headscarf or anything dramatic. It can just be like a little beanie.
Hmm.
And everybody wears those.
Yeah.
Mm. And you
That's
may
a
find
really interesting point. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
no, no, not at all. Like, just that you might find that by psychically doing that and being like, I'm putting a protection on that ensures that I stay whole and that I don't become so overwhelmed and that
Mhm.
I'm not constantly scanning, especially in big crowds or like
Yeah.
on planes, you might find that you really benefit from it. I've
I'm
had
gonna try
several
this.
clients who
Yeah.
do that and they really like it. So, those are just a few things. And then last but not least, I do think that moderating your schedule when traveling is very important. One of the reasons people like to travel with me is because they've been on other types of tours where it's like, boom, we're here, then we're there, then back on the bus, then we're here, then we're there, then we stop to eat, then we do three more
Mhm.
things before dinner, and then there's a night program. And by the end of 10 days, they need a vacation from their vacation.
Right.
And with me, I do two, maybe three things a day. We're going to
Mhm.
have a reasonable thing in the morning where if we have to get up super early, like in Egypt, you want to be places at 6 a.m.
Right.
because it's so hot the
Yeah.
rest of the day. Or like when we go here in Delphi, you want to be there at 8 a.m. when the site opens before all the tour buses start arriving
Hmm.
so that you can touch the pristine energy of the place
Yeah.
after the night. So usually I do one early morning thing and then we have a rest and then lunch and then an afternoon thing and then dinner. And then in the evening, we may or may not have something like a meditation or a
Hmm.
sound bath or a dream incubation or a mini ritual or a creative art project. But what I really want when I'm traveling in a foreign country, especially, is to feel the essence of the place. And if I'm just like popping on and off a bus and
Mhm.
only ever staying with Americans,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get that essence. So I think it's better to do fewer things, but make them perfect than
Mhm.
to do a whole lot of things and then to feel like, well, I have all these pictures in my camera, but I'm drained by
Yeah.
the end.
That's a very interesting distinction to make. I wonder how many people do, exactly what you described. They go on these overscheduled trips to try to fit everything in, thinking this is a one and done experience, and then come back and realize that they didn't really attune to what was there.
I've been on trips that were like that and where I just felt like it just felt like it was like this never-ending sprint.
Yeah.
And where I was aching to just like, let me just sit here for an hour
Mm.
and sip a cup of tea and watch the world go by and
Yeah.
write in my journal. Or we have one woman on this trip. She is wonderful, Monette Chilson. She's an author,
Mm.
really, really great. She has brought this little kit with her that has this like putty, and you press it onto like a monument or onto like a shape on a pillar, and you can peel it off and press it onto like a stamp pad and then press it into your journal. So she's been taking these beautiful
That's
imprints.
amazing.
And in order to be able to do, and then she leaves a blank page. And then the next morning, when she goes down to the coffee shop, she goes and sits and writes about and
Mhm.
researches the symbol and writes about the symbol in her journal. And already she knows like everyone who works at the coffee shop. She's now a member of the library here. She goes out in the morning with her little journal and her
Yeah.
stamp pad, and her blog is called Excavating Her, and it's her Substack,
Okay, I'll
Excavating.
have to check it out.
She's amazing. You will love her
Wow.
writing. And she's also a pilgrimage leader. And she's been doing this little thing and she's like this too. So like it's nice to feel like I live in this village for this time
Mhm.
and this is my coffee shop and they recognize me. When I leave every day, I say, see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or I get to go and sit in the library. And even if that library has, three books in English and two of them are John Grisham novels, I'm going to sit there and be with a book in the library for the spirit of the place, or I'm going to sit in a park. And I like to have that for people to feel like that spirit of self-discovery in a place that is unusual to them, because travel isn't about getting away from the life that we were living. It's about seeing parts of ourselves that we don't see when we're in our routines. It's kind of like
Yeah.
how how you have like you'll have like arms day and then you have leg day and then you have something else, because a day of like abs and whatever, because if you do the same thing every day,
Mhm.
you stop seeing gains.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's the case for everything in life. If you do the same thing every day, you stop seeing gains.
Yes.
And you need to kind of find ways to see yourself in new places and in new ways. And at any time I go anywhere, I see a new aspect of myself. And sometimes it's a shadow aspect, and I'm like, ooh,
Mm.
okay, girl, you and me, we need to work on that. And
Mm.
sometimes it's like a new gift.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's an aspect of myself that I had forgotten.
Yeah.
So slow travel, that's kind of what I do, is slow travel is
There's
that,
your phrase right there. That's
yeah,
exactly what it is.
the thing for me that helps bring forward not only everything external that I'm seeing, but it could be that it's just that travel is a document of every external thing you're seeing. But I like the story of who I am amidst that
Mhm.
landscape.
I hear a practicing of presence in a novel environment. I have to imagine, because I haven't personally been able to do this in a while, but that it brings a level of authenticity to self when you're out of your comfort zone, in someplace completely foreign, to just sit and watch. I love the meditative quality of that, of, well, what comes up inside. Maybe you don't speak the language, so communication with people is limited. You're just listening.
You're
Like
just listening.
what
Or you
power there
know,
is in
like
that.
sometimes I'll have these like iconic moments that are I had one today that will stick with me for a long time. It was really funny. I went into the coffee shop and I'm an unconventional kind of looking person. I've got piercings and tattoos and everything. But I mean, I was pretty covered up and it was just like a rainy day. It wasn't like a big deal. I walked into the coffee shop this morning. There was a group of elderly men and they were all embroiled in conversation. And when I walked in, they all stopped talking and looked at me at the same time. And I kind of had a moment of like,
What did I
and
do?
and then I just went like, gentlemen, and walked on and like, gentlemen, good morning. And they were like, Calimera, and it was kind of this like great little moment where I was like, I still got it. Look at me.
Yes, your energy, like you threw, like your aura was just out there in that
Just was
space.
fully out. And I didn't know it was all out. You know what I mean? I was just like blithely walking along this morning to go and be like, oh, I love this coffee shop and I'm going to go get some yogurt and I'm going to do my thing. And then walked in and I guess I just brought all that. And they were like, you know,
Whoa. Oh, that's a great story.
like a little iconic moment, and it'll stay with me. And there is a quality, but so there's how you see yourself, there's how others see you. And it's also about, that you mentioned that quality of authenticity. It's also about a term that I've used is friendship with humanity.
Mm,
I go around the world as a friend of humanity. And it doesn't mean I like everybody. It doesn't mean I have to be best friends or in agreement with way everyone sees everything. I don't. But I am a friend to humanity in that in the end I want whatever's best for us all and I want to be part of whatever that is when it's happening.
mm,
And it's a kind of a sense of goodwill. It's a kind of a sense of seeing yourself as an ambassador of goodwill, of loving vibrations, of goddess energy for me. Other people might use other terms, of sacred energy, and allowing that to be present and allowing that to lead rather than, unfortunately, what I sometimes see is like the ugly American syndrome, where, walking down the street, there's an American and he's like on his phone and he's screaming into his phone, and it is so jarring. And
yeah.
he doesn't see that all the little yayas out there in their widow's weeds who
Mhm.
are on their way to church are like, he's not
Not
aware
even
of his
registering.
impact. And I like to be aware of my impact. And I like to bring a kind of a cloud of like pink gold
Mhm.
light that says, even if I've made a mistake, even if I've done something that I didn't know better, even if I, like
Yeah.
mispronounce something or whatever, that there's like a quality that's like, oh, but she's cute for trying,
Yes.
I see the effort, or, in France, it often happens where I'll go in, I'm like, I found out in France very quickly that if you don't say, good morning, how are you? They do not want to serve you.
Oh,
If you walk
interesting.
in and they're just like, bonjour, like,
Hello,
are
you
you going
rude
to say
person.
good morning? And so I've learned when I walk in, the minute I walk
Mm.
into any place in France, bonjour, comment ça va? And they're always, oh, bonjour. And by the time I get to the counter, they already know they
Oh.
better speak English to me. Probably it's easier for both of us. But they love that I was trying.
What
I'm
I hear
like,
you describing is traveling with energetic awareness. Like what you described in that coffee shop, walking in and being like, oh, here's how my energy totally changes the dynamic of the space. And I get to decide how that shows up, right? That's
like,
really
gentlemen,
amazing.
we're all having a moment together. Like, you didn't expect me. I also didn't expect you. And here we are.
And yes, good
Like,
day.
good day. Have a
I
good one.
love that you've shared all of this. There's so much good information here, not just for traveling, but as a blueprint to show up in day to day life too. If these are
This is
qualities that you could think about on a daily basis of all of those things, we could all be better humanitarians in so many
To my
ways.
thinking, this is the essence of being a priestess in the
Mhm.
world. I'm a classically trained priestess. I'm ordained in several different traditions. I feel like I am here on the planet to hold for the benefit of all beings. I don't presume to know what that is. I just know that when it's happening, there's a vibe, and I want to contribute to that.
Yeah.
And then that means that I simultaneously kind of blend in and stand out. It means that I simultaneously sort of belong everywhere and nowhere. I
Mm.
am not trying exactly to fit in completely. I am myself. I'm not pretending. I'm not putting on airs. I'm
Mm.
not faking it, but I'm
Performing.
also
Yeah.
performing. Thank you. Yes, exactly. I'm not doing that, but at the same time, I am honoring custom as the best to the best of my ability. I am assessing energy. I am bringing goodwill. I am making the effort. I feel like the role of priestess in the world, which is how I see myself. What other names other people might use to describe what they do. There's so many terms, but I see that the essence of being essentially a helper, healer spirit on earth
Mm.
is that wherever you go, you are the observer of it. You are in it, even when you are not of it. You are the contributor to it, but you're not doing it because it makes you look good. You're doing it because it's who you are. You are who you are because you are who you are, not because of what anyone else is doing.
Yeah.
You stand by your values. You stand by your practice. You also know that goodwill is the result of a certain amount of give and take and respect. And you are ready at a moment's notice to do a good deed. And
Hmm.
if I can go through my day with that, whether I'm in, you know, Orlando or Cairo or
Hmm.
Cincinnati or Athens or wherever, the middle of the desert, then I feel like I've had a good day. Even if
Yeah.
I've made mistakes, I feel like I've had a good day because I learned and I was able to be part of it. And I
What's
was able to hold a certain level of humility within that.
what you described there for me is authenticity. You
Yes.
are you, and you just owned that in a way that didn't put anything on anyone else and wasn't a performance. You just showed up and exactly how you are.
You being you, which I
Yeah.
think in terms of one's physical goals, of one's
Mm.
physical performance capacity. I think when you are there, and whether you're on your Stairmaster or whether you're lifting or whether you're doing your squats or whether you're in your Zumba class or whatever it is,
Yes.
at the end of the day, it's you are in competition with you of
Hmm.
yesterday to
Hmm.
be a better you.
Hmm.
That's it. Even when there's friendly competition, even
Yeah.
when there's like money involved, like a prize or something like that, or whatever it is, like you're only ever in competition with yourself. And it's you facing you
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And I used to study Aikido. And
Mm.
one of the things that we practice in Aikido is that amidst the grappling with your opponent, amidst the moment of conflict when someone attacks you, it's your job to make sure that neither you nor them gets hurt.
Isn't that
So
interesting? How,
Aikido is a martial art
right.
that's all about nobody getting hurt.
People will be like, how does that come together? But it actually does. It's one of those
It's
dichotomies.
it's about subduing the ego.
Mhm.
Ultimately, it's about subduing the ego. It's about going in with I don't need to be right. I just need no one to get hurt. And I think for those who are inclined to push themselves, and sometimes I know amongst my clients and friends who are really into physical fitness, sometimes there can be that little element of like, well, I go to the gym, but then like I see all these other girls and they look so good and I feel so bad about myself. Or like, oh,
Mm.
I go in and there's like someone who I just feel like every time I'm doing something, he or she comes over and they feel like they have to like show off and then I
Yeah.
feel bad. And then there is like mean girl stuff that happens
Oh, yeah.
sometimes around body image and
Yes.
stuff like that and competition. And so to be able, even for our gym girlies, to be like, I'm going in here and I love myself and I love you because I love what we're doing. I
Mhm.
love that we're here showing up for ourselves. And so whatever you're doing over there, whether you're looking sideways at me or if I look at you and it brings up some sense of unworthiness in me or competition, I can sort of let that all dissolve in I love you, I love me, and I love us for being here doing this.
There's so many through lines there. Ego can be such a huge player in all of that. That is the point that's come up in multiple episodes I've done with many different experts in different areas of
Oh,
all
yeah.
things, right? Even philosophers that I've talked to versus elite athletes and everywhere in between. I find it so interesting. And you are my expert in spirituality. It's all connected. We're all one human body, one experience, right?
And I love to be the seances part of squats and
Yes. Oh,
seances. That
you
makes me
are.
really happy.
So, speaking of the last key point we had, funny you should mention that, was that you wanted to talk about when dead people start talking. Those were your words. Why don't we play off of that? Whatever you feel compelled to share, and then we'll wrap it up. And I'm happy to say, listeners, this will not be a one and done. I've already got a commitment for season two. We'll definitely have a round two of this because this,
I
I
can't
know a
wait
lot
to
of
come
people are going to
back.
love this episode.
I'm having so much fun with you, Vanessa, and
Yay.
I just love your voice. I love your natural. I feel very like safe with you,
Thank you.
and I just feel like you have created something so beautiful here. So I want to really
Mm,
acknowledge that.
thank you very much.
Okay, when dead people start talking, and this is actually, I think, very timely because we are
Mm,
in the season of the ancestors. For those of us who practice nature-based traditions, Celtic spirituality, but also indigenous spiritualities of like Mexico or of those who honor the Slavic deities, all across the world, this time of year is ancestor season in
yeah.
a lot of different cultures. And so this is a time when a lot of us, our minds turn toward those voices that have gone into the other world. And I want to share um, a few things. And I'm going to just sort of like stream of consciousness say them because I feel it coming and
Yes.
it just wants to be said. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but if someone has died because of a traumatic event, a suicide, a sudden loss that was related to an accident, or sometimes if someone has died because after a long battle with dementia, their spirit is in this in-between space. And you might need to explain to them what's happening because they don't always know. Because in that confusion at the moment of death, that sudden parting of the spirit from the body, there can be like an entry into almost like the back rooms of
Mm,
spirit, where you're kind of in a zone that's neither here nor there. If you have anyone in your lineage who has passed under any of those circumstances, or friends or beloveds who have passed under any of those circumstances, suddenly as a result of a tragic accident, as a result of a suicide, or at the end of a battle with dementia, you can create a little sort of shrine for them, put a picture of them, put a candle, put a glass of water, maybe get some of their favorite candies or treats, put those there. Like my dad likes ice cream. I always give him ice cream. My great aunt loves coffee. I'll put a little
mm,
cup of coffee for her. And what you can do is every day for, you decide, you'll know however many days. Maybe it's a week, maybe it's 2 weeks, maybe it's a moon cycle.
Mm.
You go to that altar and you say to that person, "Dear so and so, I love you so much. You're missed here in this realm. And yet I feel and know that you're not yet on to the next realm. I want you to know that it's safe to go. I want you to know that we will always remember you. I want you to know that your name will always be spoken with love. I want you to know," and this is especially in the case of suicide or the case of a tragic accident that might have been drug or alcohol related,
Mm.
something like that. I want you to know that even if that I don't need to understand what happened in order to love you unconditionally. I feel like that opens something for
Yeah.
them, and that you can then you will know because you'll start to feel the relief
Mm.
as their spirit turns into wisps and moves on into the light. There are spirits who choose to stay after they've died. Frequently, if a woman dies and one of her adult children has just had a baby, she
Mm.
will stay on purpose because she wants to hang out with her grandbaby.
Yes.
Give that grandbaby her middle name, or bring a blanket that mom made, or a piece of her clothing, or a piece of her jewelry into the baby's room. Invite her to be a protector of that baby.
Yeah.
Um, this frequently happens with, as I mentioned, moms who have, or, and dads too, who have grandbabies, but sometimes it also happens with widows and widowers. If somebody passed and they are wanting to make sure that their person on this side is okay, they will volitionally stick around. They can see the light, they can see the path, they can see how to get there, and they say, "Not yet." The dead are always communicating with us in subtle ways. You probably know it in a smell of
Yeah.
perfume or a smell of a certain type of food cooking. You will know it in a song that comes on the radio. You will know it in a particular symbol that just was like a secret, like joke between the two of
Yeah.
you, or things like that. They're always communicating. And sometimes a science-minded person might be tempted to think of that as a coincidence. If the science-minded person were to allow themselves to think of that as a deliberate communication, it actually opens the door to the possibility of the collection of proof that
Yeah.
communication of that nature exists, and
Mhm.
that it is documentable, and that it is repeatable, and that it does happen with regularity. So allowing oneself to have that belief of like, hey, what if that was a sign?
Yeah.
I don't have to fully believe it yet, but I'm just going to note that it happened and see if it happens again.
Hmm.
Um, the dead will sometimes speak to us through our children. And if you have a child who says like extremely smart, precocious things, like, "Whoa, where
Yeah.
did that come from? Well, that little wisdom being just came up with that thing." Sometimes that is an ancestral wisdom speaking through that child. It might mean that they are carrying the wisdom of the lineage. Similarly, children often will have dreams
Yeah.
in which ancestors come and where they know things that they shouldn't know
Mhm.
about members of the family. It's good to listen to that. I also note that unhealed trauma reveals itself in our children. And this is one of the most compelling reasons. I myself don't have kids. I'm a mother to many, many adults.
Yes.
Um, but I don't have children in this life. But I know from working with thousands of women over the last 20 plus years that sometimes a woman will come and she's weeping and she's like, "I don't know if I'm a good mother. I think maybe I've been a bad mom. I feel like I did something wrong." And I say, "Why?" "Well, because my child is having this problem."
Mm.
And then if we work on it, we can usually find where that problem that the child is having is actually related to a problem of something that was unhealed in the mother, in the father, in the grandparents, in the prior lineage.
Mhm.
The other thing is that if there is a child who died and went unacknowledged because of the pain of the loss,
Yeah.
that child will do anything to get attention. The way I describe it to my students, because I teach a death doula and ancestral
Oh,
program
wow. Okay.
um, for this.
Yes.
So when I am teaching about it, the way I'll say is like, if you walk into a room and there's 30 adults and one crying baby, who's in charge of the room?
Yeah.
The crying
The
baby.
crying baby.
10 out of 10 times, the crying
Yes.
baby is the one in charge of those 30 adults, right? It's the same if you were to envision your lineage as a room full of grown-ups with one crying baby in it.
Mhm.
And so this can manifest in problems that are not of a chemical nature, but of a personality nature, like personality disorders or things that are like anxiety or depression that are not necessarily related to like serotonin or other
Mhm.
chemical problems that are more just like ambient melancholy. It can manifest in irrational fears.
Yeah.
It can manifest in phobias and in like extreme pickiness in eating. If you have a child that has these kinds of things and you and the doctors are tearing your hair out because it's like there's nothing wrong, but something's wrong,
Yeah.
go back, go looking in your lineage and find the dead child.
Interesting. Oh, I got
And
goosebumps with that.
make sure that you make a little altar, whether it's, oh, great aunt so and so, had a stillborn baby and it was so bad, the situation was so bad that she kind of lost her mind and we never spoke of it again. Go find out.
There's where you
If
need to go.
that's Baby
Wow.
J, you
Yeah.
have to go be like, Baby J, I'm naming you Jennifer, and you are in my family now. And make sure that once a year on your birthday, I say your name, I remember you, I bring a little toy to the cemetery and I put it on a child's grave representatively for you, even if I don't know where your grave is. Go find that. The number of times that I have gone on a hunt to find the unacknowledged child that died
Yeah.
in order to help a child that's living. I can't
Interesting.
even count it.
That's
So
profound.
I guess these are just a few of the things that I wanted to say on When the
Yeah.
Dead Speak for this season. And mostly it's in a spirit of right now, the veil is thin between the worlds. They are listening. They're always listening and they're always with us. But right now is the time of year that is collectively, traditionally consecrated for this. If you're dealing with problems in your family, if you're dealing with trauma, if you're dealing with your own PTSD, if you're dealing with things like anxiety or depression, if you're dealing with things like I have in my family of like weight gain and health problems that are associated with lineages of poverty, if
Mhm.
you have in your family things that are causing like discord, like brother against brother, parent against child, go to your ancestors and find out what they have to say. The benevolent ancestors are here to help you. They want to help you. They don't want to see this pain passed on. They wish when they get to the other side that they had a way of fixing it during life. You can fix it. And when you decide to fix it and you take that on for your lineage, it elevates your whole lineage backwards and forwards. Your children benefit, your ancestors benefit, your mom benefits. If you're coping, you're so and so with an addiction problem
Yeah.
benefits, whoever, everybody
Everyone.
benefits. And if you choose to say, like, and there's lots of ways of doing it, by the power of me doing these 100 squats today, I will resolve in myself my family's problem with eating disorders or diabetes or whatever. By the power of me taking it on myself
Mhm.
and doing it, making this ritual, doing this practice, I want everyone to have the benefit of the energy that I'm generating here.
Yeah. It
And then watch worlds
starts with
change.
you. I would recommend, if you're listening, rewind and listen to it again, because I will definitely be doing that as well. Thank you so much, Yeshi. Where can people go to find you, the work, the services that you offer? I have priestessyeshi.com And I have the Mount
That's like the
Shasta
main
Goddess
place.
Temple. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the
The
preferable one.
Yeshe.com is like the clearinghouse for all the things I do. I have lots of different projects. I have a shop, The Sacred Well, that's sacredwell.com. I have the Mount Shasta Goddess Temple, that's mountshastagaddesstemple.com. That's a membership organization. We do online ceremonies and rituals. We have classes. We're devotionally based. I have caravansophia.com. That's my travel site. And I'm just building out the trips for 2026. If you want to come with me to Greece or Egypt or Crete or Mexico City for Day of the Dead or whatever, please go there. But priestessyeshe.com has like a little bit of everything. The best way to stay in touch with me is to follow me on social media. I'm Priestess Yeshe on Instagram. I'm Priestess Yeshe everywhere. And you can also, get on my newsletter, my link tree, and you'll find that I don't send frequent newsletters, but when I send them, it's a dispatch from my heart, usually somewhere from the road, and always with the intention of true heart connection. I'm not here building a business. I am in this world to do good, to create an ambient sphere of benefit and blessing, and to live within it with a community of people who share that vision of
Mhm.
a whole and healed world. And so thank you for having me,
Oh my
giving me a
goodness,
space to talk
yes.
about things that were precious and important to me today. I wish you continued blessing and success and cannot wait for season 2.
Yay! Thank you so much for your time and energy. And I cannot wait as well to connect with you on season 2. You have a wonderful evening in Greece.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, Gritties. That's a wrap. That's season 1 done. 16 weeks of amazing interviews, content, and thought provoking discussions. I hope that you've enjoyed it. It has been so incredible to see this community grow and feel so much love, appreciation, and support. Thank you to everybody that has listened, has subscribed, has written a review, or has shared the podcast. We wouldn't be where we're at today without you. I will be producing a bunch of content in the off season. It's actually already fully booked for season 2. Our theme is going to be lifestyle. There will be many interesting guests on the podcast to talk about different ways that we can explore optimizing our day-to-day experiences. So stay tuned for that. It'll come out in early 2026, probably February, beginning of February. In the meantime, please go to squatsandseances.com. There's a little button you can click, put in your email address, and you can subscribe to a newsletter where I'll be able to share some bonus content and tips and tricks and things that I've picked up from talking to all of these amazing guests along the way. Obviously, you can find me on social media. We'll be posting there, probably not as much in the off season, but we'll come back with a bang in early 2026. So I hope you have a fantastic Halloween. Today is the day, and enjoy your holidays. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.